am Dixie, 63 years old, and I never thought that at this stage in my life, I would have to teach my own family a lesson about respect. When I saw that social media post from my daughter-in-law, with my face circled in a family photo, asking who they would erase from the family, my heart shattered into a million pieces. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife could. Before I tell you how I discovered what true family loyalty means, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button. If you've ever had to teach someone a hard lesson about respect. Family has always been everything to me. After losing my husband Gerald to cancer, 15 years ago, my son Thomas became my rock, my reason to keep pushing forward. I worked as a real estate agent for 35 years, building a modest portfolio of properties through careful investments and a lot of hard work. I was proud of what I had accomplished as a single mother and, later, as a widow. My golden years was supposed to be about enjoying the fruits of my labor and spending time with my grandchildren. When Thomas first introduced me to Jenna 8 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms despite some initial reservations. There was something about her smile that didn't quite reach her eyes when she looked at me. But I brushed it off. Thomas seemed happy, and that was all that mattered to me. Mom, Jenna, and I are thinking about getting married. Thomas told me over dinner one evening, his eyes shining with excitement. That's wonderful news, honey, I replied, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. I meant it too. All I ever wanted was his happiness. The wedding was beautiful, though I noticed I had been given minimal input in the planning. Jenna had strong opinions about everything from the flowers to the venue, and whenever I offered suggestions, they were quickly dismissed. That's a bit old-fashioned, Dixie, she would say with a tight smile. We want something more modern. After they got married, Thomas and Jenna struggled to find a place they could afford in our expensive city. Housing prices had skyrocketed, and they were both complaining about the impossibility of saving for a down payment while paying high rent. Why don't you two stay in my Oakwood property? I suggested one Sunday dinner. I was planning to rent it out, but family comes first. You can live there rent-free while you save for your own place. The Oakwood house was one of my investment properties, a charming 3-bedroom with a beautiful garden that I had purchased at a great price during a market downturn. It needed some renovations, but it was in a desirable neighborhood with excellent schools. Thomas was grateful, but Jenna's reaction was lukewarm at best. It's a bit small, she commented after the first viewing, and that kitchen is straight out of the 90s. Nevertheless, they moved in, and I paid for modest updates to the kitchen and bathrooms to make it more to Jenna's liking. I figured it was a small price to pay to help my son and his new wife start their married life on solid footing. What I didn't realize then was that this generosity would mark the beginning of a gradual but definite change in our family dynamics. Thomas began calling less frequently. Sunday dinners became monthly, then sporadic. When I did see him, he seemed different, more distant. Thomas is very busy with work, Jenna would explain when I called to check in. He'll call you back when he has time. He rarely did. And when they announced Jenna was pregnant with my first grandchild, I was overjoyed. but also concerned about the growing distance between us. I hoped becoming a grandmother would bring us closer again. Instead, it seemed to widen the gap even further. The first time I noticed something was seriously wrong was during a Thanksgiving dinner 3 years ago. I had spent days preparing all of Thomas's favorite dishes, excited to have everyone together at my home. "These mashed potatoes are a bit lumpy," Jenna commented, pushing her plate away slightly. "I always use a ricer for mine. Makes them so much smoother." "Mom's mashed potatoes have always been the best," Thomas used to say when he was younger. That day, he just kept eating silently, not meeting my eyes. Later, when I brought out the pumpkin pie, Jenna made a show of taking only the tiniest sliver. "I'm watching my figure," she explained to everyone at the table, then turned to me. "Not everyone can eat whatever they want at our age, right, Dixie?" The comment stung, but I laughed it off. "One day of indulgence won't hurt," I said lightly, trying to keep the mood festive. That night, after everyone had left, I noticed Jenna had posted pictures from our dinner on her social media. There were dozens of photos of her, Thomas, and their baby girl Sophie. But not a single one included me, despite the fact that I had hosted the entire event and cooked every dish. The caption read, "So thankful for my perfect little family this Thanksgiving." I told myself not to be hurt. Perhaps she just hadn't gotten any good photos of me. It happened sometimes. But as the months passed, a pattern emerged. Every family gathering, every holiday, every milestone was documented extensively on Jenna's social media. And I was either completely absent from the narrative or included only in unflattering images. When Sophie's second birthday rolled around, Jenna organized an elaborate party at my Oakwood house, the one they were still living in temporarily. I arrived early to help set up bringing the handmade quilt I had spent months creating for my granddaughter. "Oh, we don't really have room for that," Jenna said dismissively, barely glancing at the gift. "Sophie has so many blankets already." Throughout the party, I noticed Jenna pulling other family members aside for private conversations, their eyes occasionally darting in my direction. My sister Marlene seemed uncomfortable when I approached her afterward. "Is everything okay?" I asked her. "Of course," she replied too quickly. "Why wouldn't it be?" I began to notice family members treating me differently. Cousins who used to call regularly became distant. Invitations to family events became scarce. When I did attend gatherings, conversations would sometimes stop abruptly when I approached. Once, I overheard my niece Amanda talking to Jenna. "Does she even know about the posts?" Amanda asked in a hushed tone. "Who cares if she does?" Jenna replied. "It's not like she ever checks social media." I didn't understand what they meant at the time. I had a Facebook account, but rarely used it, except to keep up with old friends and clients. I had no idea that behind my back, Jenna had been crafting an entirely different narrative about me to our family and her extensive social media following. Through it all, I kept trying. I would bring small gifts for Sophie when I visited. I offered to babysit so Thomas and Jenna could have date nights. I invited them to dinner and suggested family outings. Most offers were politely declined. "We're just so busy right now," became Jenna's constant refrain. I began to wonder if I was imagining things, if I was becoming one of those oversensitive older women who read too much into innocent comments. But in my heart, I knew something wasn't right. The daughter-in-law I had welcomed into my family with open arms was systematically pushing me out of it, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. The day everything changed was Sophie's 5th birthday party. Jenna had organized an elaborate princess-themed celebration at the Oakwood House with a rented bouncy castle professional face painters and a 3-tiered cake that must have cost a small fortune. I arrived exactly on time carrying a carefully wrapped present for Sophie, a beautiful dollhouse I had found that reminded me of one I had as a child. As I walked through the front door, I immediately sensed something was off. The usual buzz of conversation dimmed noticeably, and several people exchanged glances. My sister Marlene approached me quickly, looking concerned. "Dixie, can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked, guiding me toward the kitchen before I could even set down my gift. "What's going on?" I asked, confused by her urgency. "Is something wrong?" Marlene pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she navigated to a social media page. "I think you need to see this. I just found out about it myself, or I would have told you sooner." She handed me her phone, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There on the screen was a family photo from Christmas last year. Everyone was there: Thomas, Jenna, Sophie, and various extended family members, including me. But someone Jenna had circled my face in bright red and added the caption, "If you could erase one person from the family, who would you choose? You know my choice." The post had hundreds of likes and dozens of comments, many from people I recognized, family members and friends who I thought cared about me. "OMG, Jenna, you're so bad," wrote my niece with a laughing emoji. "That Christmas dinner was so awkward with her there," commented my cousin's wife. "Some people just don't know when they're not wanted," added someone I didn't recognize. And there, among the cruel comments, was one that broke my heart completely, a laughing emoji from Thomas's account, my own son. My hands began to shake so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. My chest tightened, and tears sprang to my eyes, but I fought them back. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. "How long has this been going on?" I asked Marlene, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know exactly. I'm not very active on these platforms. Amanda showed me this today. She thought you knew." Marlene looked genuinely distressed. "Dixie, I'm so sorry." I handed the phone back to her, picked up my purse, and walked out of the kitchen. The living room was full of guests, many of whom fell silent as I passed. I saw Jenna in the center of a group, laughing about something. Our eyes met briefly, and I caught a flicker of something, not shame or regret, but almost annoyance at my presence. I placed Sophie's gift on the designated table and left without saying a word to anyone. As I drove home, tears finally flowed freely down my cheeks. Not just tears of hurt, but of anger too. How long had this been going on? How many family gatherings had been poisoned by whispers and snickers behind my back? How many people had seen these cruel posts and said nothing? Back at my house, I sat alone at my kitchen table, and with shaking hands created an account on the social media platform Jenna used most often. It didn't take long to find her profile, which was public and had thousands of followers. What I discovered there was years of subtle and not so subtle digs at me, carefully crafted to paint me as the stereotypical, interfering mother-in-law, despite the fact that I had gone out of my way to give them space and support. Photos of me caught mid-sentence or with unflattering expressions, captions that misrepresented things I had said or done, stories that were twisted versions of reality. And throughout it all, supportive comments from family members who apparently found my humiliation entertaining. That night, I barely slept. I kept reviewing every interaction with Jenna and Thomas over the past 8 years, seeing them in a new and painful light. The constant rejection of my offers to help, the dismissal of my gifts, the gradually increasing distance, it had all been deliberate. Early the next morning, I tried calling Thomas. The call went straight to voicemail, as it often did these days. "Thomas, it's Mom. I need to talk to you as soon as possible. It's important." My voice sounded steady despite the turmoil inside me. He didn't call back. Later that day, I called again, and again the next morning. Finally, on the third try, he picked up. "Mom, what's so urgent? I've been really busy." I saw Jenna's social media post, Thomas, the one asking who people would erase from the family, with my face circled. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "It was just a joke, Mom. Jenna doesn't mean anything by it. She just has a particular sense of humor." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A joke. Humiliating your mother publicly is a joke to you. I saw your comment, Thomas. You thought it was funny too. You're making too big a deal out of this. Everyone posts stuff like that these days. It's just how social media works. You're being oversensitive. I'd like to talk to both of you in person. Can you come over tomorrow evening? He sighed heavily. Fine, but Jenna has a big work presentation the next day, so we can't stay long. The next evening, they arrived at my house together, both looking annoyed rather than contrite. We sat in my living room, the tension palpable. "I've been looking at Jenna's social media accounts," I began calmly. "I've seen years of posts mocking me, misrepresenting me, and turning family members against me." "You've been stalking my social media," Jenna interrupted, her tone indignant. "That's a violation of my privacy." "Your accounts are public, Jenna. Thousands of people can see what you post, including cruel jokes about erasing me from the family." Thomas cut in. "Mom, like I said, you're overreacting. Jenna doesn't mean anything by those posts. It's just content for her followers." "Content? I'm content to you. I'm your mother, Thomas." "Look," Jenna said with an exaggerated sigh, "I'm sorry you got your feelings hurt, but it was just a joke. Everyone understood that, except you." "Everyone? You mean the family members who've been avoiding me? The ones who've been laughing at me behind my back for years because of how you've portrayed me? Maybe if you weren't so controlling and judgmental, people wouldn't relate to my posts so much," Jenna snapped. I was stunned. "Controlling? When have I ever controlled anything in your lives? I gave you a house to live in, rent-free. I've respected your boundaries with Sophie. I've only offered help, never insisted on anything." That's the problem, Jenna said. You hold that house over our heads like we owe you something. Always the generous mother-in-law who never lets us forget her sacrifices. I've never once mentioned any sacrifice, I replied, struggling to keep my voice even. That house was meant to be temporary to help you save for your own place. You've been living there for 7 years now. So now you want to kick us out? See, Thomas, this is exactly what I was talking about. The minute we don't bow down to her, she threatens us. Thomas looked uncomfortable but still said, Mom, we're family. That house is as much mine as it is yours. Dad would have wanted me to have it anyway. That statement hit me like a physical blow. The entitlement, the manipulation, the complete disregard for everything I had worked for. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The hurt began to transform into something else, something stronger. Anger, yes, but also clarity. After they left, I called several family members who had been active commenters on Jenna's posts. Most were defensive, claiming they didn't see anything wrong with a little joke or insisting I was being too sensitive. My own sister Linda suggested I should try harder to get along with Jenna. She's the mother of your only grandchild, Dixie. Sometimes you have to overlook things for the sake of family harmony. Family harmony. As if I hadn't been sacrificing my own feelings for years in pursuit of exactly that. The next day, I called my old friend Sarah, who had been an attorney for 40 years and was one of the few people who had never wavered in her support of me. I need your honest opinion about something and possibly your professional help. I told her over coffee at her office. I explained the situation with the house, how I had allowed Thomas and Jenna to live there, rent-free, while they supposedly saved for their own place, a goal that seemed to have been forgotten as years passed. The property is still in my name, but Thomas seems to think it's already his by right. He actually said it was as much his as mine, and that his father would have wanted him to have it. Sarah's expression was thoughtful as she listened. What does your will say about the property? It's divided equally between Thomas and my niece Amy, who's been like a second child to me, but that's beside the point. I'm not dead yet, Sarah. She smiled at that. No, you certainly aren't. And legally speaking, that house is 100% yours to do with as you please. There's no automatic inheritance right while you're alive, regardless of what Gerald might have wanted. I pulled out the property records I had brought with me. I've paid all the property taxes since they moved in. I've covered major repairs. I even paid for renovations to suit Jenna's taste. Sarah reviewed the documents and nodded. There's no question about ownership here, Dixie. You've been more than generous, but legally and ethically, that house is yours alone until you decide otherwise. As I drove home, I thought about the years I had spent building my real estate career, the careful investments, the long hours, all while raising Thomas as a single mother after Gerald passed. I thought about the value I had created through my own hard work value that Thomas and Jenna now felt entitled to, while simultaneously pushing me to the margins of family life. I spent the next week researching current market values in the Oakwood neighborhood. Property prices had increased significantly since I had purchased the house. What had been a modest investment was now worth considerably more. I also reviewed my financial situation carefully. I was comfortable, but not wealthy. The value in that house represented a significant portion of my retirement security. I thought about forgiveness, about letting go for the sake of peace. But then I remembered Jenna's face when she looked at me. The casual cruelty of that red circle around my face in the family photo. The question about who to erase. I remembered my son's laughing emoji, his dismissal of my feelings, his sense of entitlement to what I had worked for. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. I called Thomas one more time, giving him an opportunity to acknowledge the hurt his family had caused, to make amends, to recognize the generosity they had taken for granted. Mom, we've already discussed this. You need to get over it. Jenna feels like you're holding a grudge, and honestly, it's making things uncomfortable for everyone. Uncomfortable for everyone, I repeated slowly. I see. We're family, Mom. Family forgives. Yes, I said quietly. Family should also respect. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I made a decision. I knew what I had to do. The following Monday, I contacted my old real estate company and listed the Oakwood property with my former colleague, Jackson. We hired professional cleaners and stagers to prepare the house for showings, scheduling them for times when I knew Thomas and Jenna would be at work. We want to present this beautiful property in the best possible light, I told the stagers. It has so much potential for the right family. We took professional photographs, wrote an enticing property description, and by Friday, the listing was live on all major real estate websites. I didn't call Thomas or Jenna to inform them. I wanted them to discover it the same way I had discovered their betrayal, unexpectedly and in public. It didn't take long. Saturday morning, my phone rang, Thomas's name flashing on the screen. Mom, there must be some mistake. Our house is listed for sale online. It's not a mistake, Thomas. What do you mean? You can't sell our house. It's not your house, Thomas. It never was. It's my house, and yes, he can sell it. There was a moment of stunned silence before he exploded. You can't do this. We've been living here for years. We've made it our home. Yes, rent-free, while I paid the taxes and major repairs. But you gave it to us. You said we could live here while we saved for our own place. Exactly. It was meant to be temporary. 7 years is hardly temporary. And from what I can see, you haven't saved anything toward your own place. This is insane. You're punishing us because your feelings got hurt over a stupid social media post. No, Thomas, I'm making a business decision about my property after realizing how little my generosity has been appreciated. I'm also making a personal decision about what kind of treatment I'm willing to accept from family. Later that afternoon, Thomas and Jenna showed up at my door, unannounced, both of them furious. Jenna was practically vibrating with rage. You spiteful old woman! You think you can just throw us out on the street. We have a child. You have 2 months to find new accommodation. That's more notice than the law requires for tenants, which technically you are not, since you've never paid rent. Dad promised me that house, Thomas insisted. He always said it would be mine someday. Your father and I worked together to build our investments, Thomas. He trusted me to manage them wisely, which is what I've done. If he were alive, he would be heartbroken to see how you've treated your mother. I showed them the property deeds tax records and maintenance receipts I had organized. The house is legally mine. You have no claim to it whatsoever. As they continued to argue, I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. On the screen was Jenna's infamous post, the family photo with my face circled red, and the cruel question about who to erase. "I've made my own post in response," I said quietly, showing them my comment on Jenna's original post. "The house you're living in isn't your husband's, it's mine, and I just voted to erase you." Their faces went pale. Within hours, the family grapevine was buzzing. Some relatives called to express shock at what I had done. Others, who had perhaps grown tired of Jenna's social media performance art, quietly reached out to offer support. "It's about time someone stood up to her," my niece Amy told me. "I always hated those posts, but everyone was afraid to say anything because she would target them next." The house sold within a week, well above asking price in the hot market. The new owners, a young couple with twins, were excited to start fresh in a family-friendly neighborhood. The irony wasn't lost on me. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and adjustments. Thomas and Jenna scrambled to find new housing in a rental market they had ignored for years, finally settling on an apartment significantly smaller than the house they had taken for granted. Some family members stopped speaking to me entirely, convinced by Jenna's narrative that I was a vindictive mother-in-law who had callously made my grandchild homeless. Others, however, began to reach out often with apologies for having participated in or silently condoned the years of subtle mockery. "I should have said something," my brother Bill admitted during a long overdue phone call. "I knew those posts were cruel, but everyone else was laughing, and it seemed easier to go along. I'm ashamed of myself." I accepted the apologies that seemed genuine and established clear boundaries with those who had betrayed my trust. Some relationships were likely damaged beyond repair, but others began to heal in a more honest, respectful way. I put a portion of the proceeds from the house sale into a college fund for Sophie, who was innocent in all of this adult drama. The rest, I used to establish a small scholarship fund in Gerald's name at the local community college, where he had taught part-time before his illness. For the first time in years, I began to focus on my own needs and interests, rather than constantly trying to maintain family peace at the expense of my dignity. I joined a book club, took a watercolor class, and reconnected with old friends who had no agenda beyond genuine companionship. 6 months after the house sale, Thomas called me. His voice sounded different, humbler somehow. "Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I didn't handle things well. Actually, that's an understatement. I was completely wrong." "Yes, you were." I agreed, not making it easier for him, but not shutting him down either. "Jenna and I are having problems. I've started to see patterns I didn't notice before. The way she talks about other people behind their backs, the social media obsession, the constant need for drama and attention. I'm starting to understand how you must have felt all these years. It's not pleasant to be the target of someone's cruelty, is it?" "No, it's not." There was a pause. I miss you, Mom. Sophie misses you too. Would it be possible for us to have dinner sometime? Just the three of us. I considered his request carefully. I'd like to see Sophie. As for rebuilding our relationship, Thomas, that will take time and consistent effort on your part. Trust once broken doesn't repair easily. I understand. I'm willing to try if you are. We arranged to meet the following weekend. It was a tentative beginning, not a magical resolution. Real relationships don't work that way. They require honest communication, mutual respect, and the courage to enforce boundaries when necessary. Looking back now, I don't regret selling the house. It wasn't an act of revenge, but of self-respect. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for others and for ourselves is to stop enabling harmful behavior and instead insist on being treated with dignity. Family is precious, yes, but so is your sense of self-worth. Never let anyone, no matter how close they are to you, convince you to erase yourself from the picture. Have you ever had to take a stand against disrespect from family members? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Thank you for listening, and remember, the most important room in your house is the one you make for your own self-respect.